Hey, this is Matthew Justice, second fucking gear crew, and you're listening and you're watching Turnbuckle Tavern.
This is the fucking GCW show, emerging from the spooky dust, light tubes, barbed wire. I'm your co-host, Chad. With me, as always, the motherfucking truth, Mike Belcaster. And this week we got a special guest, the ace of the tavern, Steve Acefield. You were live in attendance for Tournament of Survival weekend, so we're going to dive into a bunch of shit, guys.
My vision's a little off. I'm still trying to get the spooky dust out of my eyes. I've been breathing in light tube fumes for about 4 or 5 hours. So I'm doing okay. The wheezing stopped, but I'm here to talk some GCW.
Hell yeah.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. I think we took last week off. Our apologies. Usually, you guys have came to know that after every Monday of a GCW weekend, we're here, downward spiral, with Mike being in Vegas for Double or Nothing weekend. We decided to take the week off, and moving forward, just a heads up, we're going to do this as a bi-weekly show now. So instead of it just being a straight ahead kind of nuts and bolts, run down the card and break down the card, we're going to make it more of a fun news show. We're still going to cover our favorite matches, the big moments of the 2 weeks, but bi-weekly we will be here. Even if there isn't an event and it falls within that bi-weekly period, we'll come on to talk any little bits and pieces of news that happen. So moving forward, every 2 weeks, you're going to get us. And I have a feeling Steve might be popping in a little more. And I think we're going to make this a fun show.
I would love to come by as much as possible. This is my third appearance on the GCW show. And man, the brand is so much fun. It's so different. We'll get into everything that happened in the last 2 weekends, but it's just a unique take on wrestling, and it's a buffet. And if you like it, you like it. And some people love it. And I'm one of them.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. You're a welcome addition, dude.
I think it's one of those, the thing I like about this show is you don't get a lot of people talking about GCW out there. Like,
yeah,
as far as in a show format where you can kind of tune in. I know before me and you started doing this, Mike, it was one of those things where I wanted to know more, but outside of just, following Game Changer Wrestling on social media and the performers in GCW and following them, it was really hard to find a dedicated place to track GCW news. And I felt like that was a lacking kind of avenue to go down. And that's what we want to give you guys, is a place where you can come and at least get kind of caught up to speed on the world of Game Changer Wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a different product, and there's not a source out there that's covering this kind of fun that you get every weekend with these guys. So I look forward to the GCW show every time we sit down and do it. I look forward to watching the shows every weekend they're on, and I hope we do justice. I think we do a pretty damn good job, and I look forward to it, man. It's fun times.
And the main part is it deserves its own show. It shouldn't just be a side note in a lot of different shows like Cardona'S hurt. Let's talk about it. It needs its own show, because the stuff we saw this weekend is just another example of the great shows they're putting on a weekly basis that they're doing. They're going all these different cities, these unique venues, putting on killer shows. And also, if you're there live, it's awesome. But also, if you watch on Fight TV, it's just as awesome. It's a really good product to watch. And, the weekend I was at, it was mostly death matches, but they give you an eclectic mix of different styles of wrestling. I happened to see they went heavy on the death match with the Tournament of Survival. But, they have like the old school ECW, they have the good wrestling. You got the Nick Wayne, you got the Blake Christian going out there and working the catch can style. And you're going to see good arm drags. You're going to see high flying moves. It's not just blood and guts, even though there's plenty of that.
Hell yeah,
Absolutely.
Dude, you picked a hell of a show to go to. I'll tell
Oh,
you
that was that's dude, that's a
that.
legendary show to go to. I
Yeah.
mean, this is number 7. And if you look, and we'll get into this, I don't want to pull triggers on some of the images I have to show, but like this has a very like within the deathmatch community, a very reputable reputation as one of the premier deathmatch tournaments that kind of crowns the Billy Badass of the genre
Yeah.
every year annually. I think that's something that, you know, we need to speak of that with reverence and not just blood and guts. This is just guys who can't wrestle. That's a bullshit take.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a true art form within pro wrestling. And, you know, talking about Ace, where you said, you know, this can't just be a little news blurb. I'm the same way with like GCW. And honestly, the Tavern was born out of kind of that mindset, the Tavern itself, because we all as wrestling fans consume a lot of wrestling podcasts. And I'm an avid Busted Open listener, and I got so tired of 2 hours and 30 minutes of their show was WWE, and there would be like a 30-minute little AEW thing, and I was hungry for more. So me and Steve was like, let's talk AEW. And then when we started the Tavern, I'm like, same thing with GCW. I don't want to just hear Matt Cardona challenges Nick Gage. It's like there's more meat on the bone than just that, and we're here to kind of dive into that stuff.
And I'll talk about it when we get into, you know, the live show, and we'll talk about my experience there. But this is as close as you're going to get to prime ECW in the mid to late 90s, where it just seems like a giant party. And that's all I'll say right now until I get into my experience. It's just a lot of fun. And it's like going in a time capsule of being in Philadelphia for an ECW show, or what I would imagine it would be like.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into some of our top stories of the weekend. Stick around because we'll have our Ain't No Jive 5, where we'll break down some of our favorite matches of the last 2 weekends. We'll get into top fucking tweets. We'll give our BMF of the weekend, our best bout. We'll get into all that good stuff. But at the top, let's do some top stories. One of the big stories, we've kind of alluded to it, Matt Cardona at Downward Spiral on Memorial Day weekend goes down with a pretty serious injury that sidelines him, and he's in a match with, was it Blake Christian who injures him, right?
Yeah, the match only went 7 minutes too. I think they probably cut it short. I think he got hurt mid-match, obviously.
Yeah, I have there. It was a dive to Cardona, and when he caught him, what exactly was the injury, Ace? Was it a torn bicep?
Yep, torn bicep off the bone. So he's done for at least 6 to 9 months, if not a full year.
So here is the moment Matt Cardona tore his bicep. And you can tell, man, he's grabbing it instantly. What does this mean? We can talk the grander, you know, kind of story of what's this mean for Cardona, but first, like, what does this mean for GCW? Do you think it hurts them in any way, Mike? I'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, I think it definitely, it's a setback on all fronts. You know, Cardona's and GCW's. I mean, he's a red hot heel there, and always putting on a good program, no matter who he's working with. Thankfully, he was able to get this Blake Christian angle a little ahead of the curve before, you know, he shit the bed and his arm gave out on him. But I think it's just going to make it that much better when he comes back. And there's going to be, I'm sure there's still be some good promos coming in from his end, because that's I mean, he's a mouthpiece for first and foremost. So yeah, man, it sucks. Injuries, it's like injury season in pro wrestling right now. Everybody's getting hurt. So it's just, you know, every company's got something that's setting them back.
Cardona dropped that tweet. All top guys are injured. Punk, Danielson, and him. So,
and the crazy thing is, like, you know, he's kind of leaning into that character, but there's a lot of truth in that. Regardless of what old school GCW hardcore fans who've been there long before Cardona trotted through the doors, this guy is, like you said, Mike, he's arguably their top heel in their company right now. So you've got Punk, Cody, every promotion's top guys are hurt right now. It's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, I would say with Cardona, you're right. His influence on GCW has been great for him and also great for GCW, because if I notice just from watching the product, there's not a lot of top heels in the company. John Wayne Murdoch has that heel thing going where he's ripping on the old deathmatch wrestlers and talking about how GCW is an embarrassment to death matches. So he gets legitimate heat, but everybody loves John Wayne Murdoch. At the end of the day, he can come out there and have a match and people want to cheer his name and they're playing along that he's heel. I believe everyone in the GCW audience hates Matt Cardona and they hate what he represents, but they also love to boo him. So I think they really need to fill that void and have a top heel come in. And I don't know who it would be. And I mean, the list is endless. You can bring a guy in that's kind of cut from the same ilk, a WWE type of guy, and do that whole gimmick that he's doing. But don't be surprised if Cardona's there on I wouldn't say every show, but do what he did in showing up at the Cage of Survival in the wheelchair and doing that whole gimmick.
Yeah,
Definitely a nod to his time with Kane. That was awesome with the neck brace, and like that was pretty funny when he was tossed off the stage. So he's a student of the game. He understands that being injured sometimes is when the best character development happens. You have Britt Baker. She became the superstar she was when she was hurt. Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously broken neck, became the transcendent star after he was hurt. Cardona is only going to grow his character, grow his brand while he's hurt. He doesn't stop grinding. That guy knows what is good for the business and knows what's good for him. So he'll be there.
Yeah, and like you said, the fans love to hate him. Here's a little example of that from Downward Spiral. I mean, they go so hard on him, you can tell he's loving it. He is loving it.
Yeah, just the access that they have to the wrestlers is insane, and then the trust that Brett Lauderdale and everyone has there. Maybe it's just naivety or something, but there's access, and when they come out from the entranceway, people are swarming them and they're touching each other. And Cardona, I mean, he's right in there with the guys, and if someone wants to take a swing at him, anybody could, and that's the risk you take. And that is the old school ECW mentality where Bubba Ray Dudley was taking swings at fans. Like this is the same type of environment.
100%, man. And when you were talking about what other heel could come into this company, that's a name that popped into my head, is a Bubba Ray Dudley.
Oh yeah.
Like a Bubba Ray Dudley tapping back into that ECW attitude he had, going into a GCW crowd. And that could be, I know he's kind of flirting with working with NWA now. He's going to be at the Always Ready pay-per-view doing guest commentary. I think that's going to work its way into him shooting an angle in NWA. But yeah, that's someone who could come in. But with Cardona, man, like he gets hurt. And this is why I love this guy. He's came out. He said he's going to show up at NWA. He holds the 10 pounds of gold. And then Cage of Survival, he's pushed out with the nod to his Kane wheelchair moment. He's got a torn bicep. There's no reason why he should be in a fucking wheelchair, which makes it that much better. He's really relishing this heel role.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's pure like fun heel work, man. And Cardona's living the dream right now. He's killing it doing his...
That picture he shared with the guy with the bottle of piss, where he had, the big fat guy with his shirt up and stuff. And he's like, this is GCW. What are you guys doing to me? And his face is classic. That guy was at the show also. Again, he was holding what looks to be a jar of piss. I know it becomes part of the gimmick. I think they want them to use it, make it look like it is piss. Obviously, I'm hoping it's just like watered down crystal water or something. Yeah. But who knows? Some of these guys in the crowd, they were living the gimmick, brother. Like they were in there. That this is their life, man. This is no joke. No other hobbies. GCW is all they have interest in.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Cardona, of course we want to see him in the ring. Of course he's a wrestler. We want to see him not hurt. But if there's anyone who can, keep legs to this gimmick, even through an injury, I think he's someone that can do it. We had talked about this. Ace, you brought this up in the group chat before we went on, and it was something I wanted to talk about too, with our second story. Is Mox they announced Mox will have a match in their return to New York City against Tony Deppen, and it's going to be a world title match. Before we get into the Mox situation of it, does Tony Deppen deserve this match?
Probably not. I would say, as far as like if you want to go with the rankings of GCW and being there and being relevant, But the match is going to be killer. I love Tony Deppen and what he can bring into the ring. Does he have a chance to beat Moxley? Maybe, but like they have to get the title off of Moxley. I know that that's the conversation we're going into, because not having the world champion there on a weekly basis, it's not a good look. And I know Moxley is this legend and you want him there, but at some point the world champion has to be someone you rely on to be on the card and draw. The world title has to find its way back into the active roster. And I'm not sure Tony Deppen is the guy. He's not even so much active because he's hit or miss when he's on the card. But, you know, I would love to see it go to a guy who's there on a weekly basis that can be, you know, relied on to be part of storyline, and the world title can be at these shows. At least show up and get in the ring.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? Do you think Deppen deserves this?
You know, I'm the biggest Tony Deppen fan, but it feels a little like out of nowhere that he's just kind of thrown into this match. I don't know. Maybe he does, but I haven't seen a great match out of him in a while since we started doing the show. I mean, he's put on some bangers, but yeah, man, I'm gunning for a Blake Christian versus Mox match, and Blake being the guy because he's hungry and you can feel it every time he's out there. Second he gets on between those ropes and on that mat, like it work his magic, you know. So yeah, it's interesting that they threw Tony Deppen up there out of nowhere.
I mean, I guess like Deppen is that consistent. He always puts on really solid, good matches. I even think back to that match he had against Thunder Rosa. That was a killer match.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable match. Yeah,
but we've kind of like labeled him, and maybe this is unfairly, but he's kind of became that guy. Like if you're coming into the company, you got to get through him before you get to the upper echelon guys. I do think they're going to put on a great match, but Ace brought up Mox, and you need a champion who's there a little more. You need to get that title off of him. Do you need to get that? Does it hurt GCW to not have their world champion represented there more regularly? Or does the benefit of having someone with the scope of a Moxley on national TV in a high spot, does that help the company more when he's doing that kind of part-timer Brock Lesnar deal where he just comes in for big moments? Or do you need a week-to-week, event-to-event champion?
I think the benefit would be if he brought the title on TV with him, if AEW would allow him to have the title, that would be the benefit. But to the casual fan, nobody has any idea he's the GCW world champion. I think it's beneficial to have him come in. He's a big deal. He's going to sell tickets, and people are going to clamor to get into that building for New York because he's there. But as far as casual fan, I think it'd be great if they showed up and he had the GCW championship with him on AEW television. Obviously, we see AAA championship show up, Ring of Honor. Obviously, Tony owns that, but to be able to have that title and have Moxley come out, what's the harm of having him come out with the GCW title? It adds to the Blackpool Combat Club gimmick. He's a tough guy. He's the champion of this company that's world renowned for the death matches. But yeah, I mean, going round and round on that question, I would say it does benefit them to have him because he is a premier wrestler with more name brand than anybody else you can bring out there. But I think having the title there, it's missing. Right now, the Ultraviolent Championship is being treated with the same type of lore as a world championship. So you're not really missing it because with the Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch stuff, you have that built-in main feud for a title, but the world title should be there. I mean, it's the world title.
Honestly, dude, that Ultraviolent title honestly holds more prestige in
at this
GCW.
point. Yeah.
It does. Like the storyline they've built, and we're going to get into that in a moment. The whole feud between Colon and Murdoch, that is to me the lifeblood of GCW right now when it comes to titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the matches that are in there, and we'll talk about the match like Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch, but it means something, and I think it represents what GCW is really about. And you don't want something meaning more than the world championship, but I guess if someone has to hold it, it's Jon Moxley. He represents everything that they could be and were, and with the CZW pass and his history of death matches, it's not like some guy's hoarding it somewhere else and he's holding it hostage. It's a guy who probably wants to be there. He just doesn't have the opportunity to.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Moxley. If Moxley never would have got the big break and became who he is, he would be a GCW. This is his bread and fucking butter, man.
Oh yeah.
Like, so it's not like you have, and we just praised Cardona, but it's not like Cardona's your champ. Like Cardona doesn't really fit the GCW mold. I mean, he's a great heel for the company, but just when you look at Mox is like dyed in the wool of what people know GCW to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No,
He
absolutely.
brings a name brand to it. Like he is deathmatch as far as the casual fan goes. If someone thinks about John Moxley, they think about those videos of CCW and him with barbed wire and tacks and glass. They think about that.
Yeah.
And if you want someone to have a preconceived notion about what GCW is before they walk in the door, John Moxley would be a good, appetizer for your, I guess, getting to know GCW.
Yeah.
I'm with you though. I do think that it helps GCW, but I do think it would. The AEW fan who isn't tapped into the indies has no fucking clue Mox does this. If he would bring out that title, then it would allow people to know, what's that belt? What's that company? So I do wish Tony Khan would allow him to bring that title out and be recognized on TV.
I wonder what the deal is. Like, he allows them to bring the AAA championships out there, and I know they have a working relationship with AAA, but they also have a working relationship with GCW. John Moxley worked in GCW before he came back to AEW. Like, that's how close they are. Brett Lauderdale and Tony Khan work pretty cohesively together, probably more so than AAA. So I don't know. Maybe it's a matter of just he has to ask. Maybe John Moxley never asked to bring it out. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think that Mox gets to do a lot of these things because Mox has that power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like Tony is allowing him because Mox wants to do GCW. So he's like, I want to keep one of my top guys happy. I mean, let's be honest. Mox is a top 5 guy in AEW. Easy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He could be the interim champion come Wednesday. We could be talking about the AEW world champion, and all of a sudden he has both championships. So that is a big deal for GCW if you pull that thread.
Yeah.
So third story, you brought this to my attention, Ace, and I didn't even hear about this come across my news wire, but they could be going back to Hammerstein, GCW. I guess Hammerstein reached out to Brett Lauderdale. Do you think Hammerstein, having that relationship with Hammerstein and bringing an event back and not letting that World on GCW event just be a standalone event, do you think this is kind of a quintessential piece of GCW's growth, kind of tying in those ECW roots to it? Do you think this is a big thing? Mike, what do you think?
I think it's a good thing. I don't know if they should be hosting pay-per-views. I think they should stick to the Fight TV thing, but like going back to Hammerstein's a great it's just a great revenue for them. It's a huge arena, a lot of history there. It looks great as long as they work out those kinks that kind of held them back the first time they were there. I think why not? It's just beneficial for the growth of the company. I think it's a great idea. And I think Lauderdale's a smart guy. He learned with that first run there, maybe pull back from doing the pay-per-view with the time limit, schedule, because it screws everything up, cuts away from the real fun of what GCW is. And I mean, you got to work with the athletic commission in New York too. That's another thing. So it's, floor mats, you kind of guardrails, you're taking away from that lore that GCW brings on. So it's a beneficial thing for them, but I think they got to work on it a little bit more. Maybe a couple more runs there and they'll perfect it. But I feel like that first one had a couple hiccups that they got to work around, and GCW just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, the Briscoes were pretty hot about that too, because I think the Briscoes match got cut down to like 5 minutes, and they were pretty hot that they ran over on pay-per-view. What do you think, Ace?
The fact that I think Mike nailed it. The show aesthetically felt not like GCW. If you were showing someone for the first time, hey, check out this product, I want you to check it out. It's an electric product. You have to see it. It's like old school ECW. It did not have that feel, whether it was the camera angles. I mean, the empty seats, the hard cam was on the wrong side, in my opinion. The way everything was formatted, and not to mention too, and I loved Cardona and that crew with Sterling. There was too much FWF, major pod stuff involved in it. It wasn't fully in the spirit of what GCW was. And I think if they learn from the mistakes and fix visually what was wrong and build a card that could sell out that arena, I think it could be beneficial. Do I want to see it become a regular thing? Absolutely not. I think buildings like the Showboat, buildings like Harpo's, buildings like what was the place in LA that we talked about? The Roxy. All
Yeah.
those
Oh, yeah.
buildings have character that add to the show. There are the superstars on the show, but there's also the drawing card of these cool venues where you look up at the roof and you look at who played here musically, and it feels intimate and it feels like a party, and it feels very, there's nothing like it. And I think bringing it in a big arena, it's like seeing your favorite band. Like it's like seeing My Chemical Romance in a small club with 200 people and then seeing them at Nassau Coliseum or MSG 10 years later. They're playing the same songs, but it definitely doesn't have the same feel if you're not in the mosh pit getting, elbowed in the face. It doesn't feel the same thing. So, I think Hammerstein's good for growth, but we had this conversation the last time I was on here. How much do you really want to grow? I know financially, Brett Lauder wants to make as much money as possible, but what makes GCW is it has its niche, man. It just has to be what it is. And like, there's that delicate balance where growth can almost sacrifice your identity. And I don't want GCW to get to that point. I want them to almost stay isolated where they are now. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, Lauderdale was on Busted Open Radio, I believe, in the lead up to the Hammerstein show. And they asked him about, what's the goal? What's the end game? Do you want a streaming deal? Do you want a television deal? And he said he did not want to have to kind of bend the knee to corporate sponsors. Like he understands, at least in that interview, it seemed like he understood what makes them successful, and he doesn't want to tamper with that, which gave me a lot of good vibes and goodwill towards Brett. But at the same time, as a fan, not knowing the inner workings, you see that tweet go out with him and Stephanie McMahon at WrestleMania weekend, and it gets all the fans chattering like, oh, they're going to partner together. I think that was just them kind of ribbing the fan base. I don't see them ever working together. I just can't see it, man. I don't want it either. That would be a moment where your fan base would turn on you and be like sellouts.
100%. Those are the words that you just said. You talk about these bands that eventually make an album that the diehards feel is not as good as the other one, that doesn't have the same sound, doesn't have the same energy, doesn't feel authentic. You run the risk of alienating the diehards and making them feel like you're trying to appease the casuals. And is it worth getting the casuals to turn and have a mutiny on your hands with the diehards? That you have a diehard, and I'm sure everybody's eating, everybody's having a good time making money. So why don't you just stay in this little gray area? You're never going to be WWE with publicly traded company and having, Colgate as your sponsor, brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT. That's never going to be them.
Right. So what do you think, Mike?
No, listen, we see how sponsors and GCW work out. Like Domino's is fucking super pissed off at them still. It's the WWE thing. I think there was like, like that overeager kid that meets his, they meet like the Ric Flairs or whatever. And he's like, I'm with my best friend, Ric Flair, it's just, it's one of those things. And it's just wordplay, I think. And, I think that this is like their 5th, 6th WrestleMania they've been to from when I was reading too, when all that was happening. So it's not like WWE is not dumb. It's not like they're like, who the hell let the yarders in? They're just back to business plan, but they're just like, yeah, man. I think I stay far away from anything that's going to corporatize punk rock. Don't screw with it, man. We don't need sponsors. I think they'll make more money running fight TV shows because they're not, they're broadcasting everything. You get those 10,000 buys with a $20 mark on it for a weekend, show. I mean, you're doing pretty good. I don't see a problem with their format right now. So stick to it, grow a little bit, but don't outgrow the heart of it all.
Yeah, part of the issue too is the music too. If they go on any big television, if they get a television, which they'll never do, but if they get someplace where they start to have an eye on the music, part of the energy of what they do is the fact that they have, Matt Tremont coming out to Separate Ways, and you got,
right.
AJ Gray coming out to Waka Flocka, and everyone's chanting to the song. Part of that energy is what's missing on the network when you watch ECW. I almost can't consume it when you don't have Pantera walking RVD out to the ring and New Jack beating someone up to Natural Born Killers. It doesn't have the same feel. And I feel like GCW with generic music wouldn't be the same product. And I think that might not be hyperbole. I think it has to have the pirated music. It has to
Yeah.
be exactly as is to feel authentic.
Yeah, you got to have that outlaw quality. I love the keep the corporate out of punk rock. I don't want to see a Metallica cutting their hair and making load moment for GCW.
Yeah.
It's just me. I don't want to see that.
No.
Fourth top story. I wanted to kind of dive into this Alex Colon, John Wayne Murdoch saga. Okay, just to kind of track this. It all started New Year's Day. Well, it started before. There was a lead up to this, but their first match happened New Year's Day 2022. They've had, I mean, these are two deathmatch titans that we're seeing, and they've had 4 ultra-violent title matches. They've had 2 ultra-violent title changes. They actually just tagged together at Downward Spiral on Memorial Day weekend. We got them against Rina and Cole Radrick. Then we had the epic Cage of Survival match from this weekend, and countless call outs, countless scathing promos on each other. What do you guys think about this feud? How important is this feud to GCW right now?
So I would say, I mean, this is their world title feud. We talked about the Ultraviolent Championship being in replacement of the World Championship, but not lesser than. It feels like the Ultraviolent Championship is the showcase, and it is the most prized possession in GCW. You need something to fight over. There's only a tournament once a year for the Tournament of Survival. You need the championship to fight over. And Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch have made that quite clear that they'll do anything for the Ultraviolent Championship. We've seen them beat each other into the inch of their lives. It's been a really good feud. And I think what's really awesome is that you have an evenly booked angle without having 50-50 booking at the same time, if that makes sense, because a lot of times it's like, just give a guy a win back, but this feels much more even, like these guys earned each other's respect over the time that they worked together. And a big piece of that is it's not just giving a guy his win back, it's also just building up to it. And it makes sense. Having Cologne win this weekend made sense the way it was going storyline wise, especially with John Wayne Murdoch getting his comeuppance for how he treated the deathmatch legends the night before. It felt like a release for the fans to be like, you know what? Screw this guy. He's a great heel, but you know what? Alex Colon really deserves it. So I thought it was a really good showing for them. And again, they need this because without the World Championship here, the Ultraviolent Championship needs to be showcased in a big way. And they've done it justice. This has been a main event quality feud.
What do you think, Mike? What have you thought about this feud between these two?
It's the heart and soul of GCW outside of the world title picture. I think this is like the best, bare bones beating the shit out of each other every time, verbally, physically, mentally, every time they step in the picture together, man. And like going up to this Cage of Survival show, you really felt it. You felt the importance of the main event. Like it was, and like we were talking about earlier, this is their world championship right now, especially with the, Mox being so sparingly used on GCW. So I loved it, man. I loved the payoff. I thought it was just, it was picturesque, it was a work of art, man.
Yeah. I think like, if you go back in the archives and watch our shows, we have showed several promos from both of these guys attacking the other, just straight verbal venom, man. I mean, they're like, there was a level of realism. You can talk about all acting, shoot, work, whatever, but these guys, you can call them indie guys, you can call them deathmatch guys, whatever, but their promos, there was a level of reality to them that I bought into. It felt like John Wayne Murdoch was a true outsider. He was an outsider to GCW. He was the guy who, outside of the GCW circle, he was the guy. He was the man in this genre of wrestling. And Alex Colon, 3-time Tournament of Survival champion, ultra-violent champion, he claimed that crown. So you had these two guys who it really felt like did not like each other, and they are not afraid to put their bodies on the line. And to see the build, because I mean, they've had 4 title matches, but it was all the little stories. It was Cologne being hurt and John Wayne Murdoch coming out and saying, "You're dodging me. You're a pussy." He attacked the commentator.
Yeah.
KG. Like, he comes out, like, there were so many things that made this so like personal to me that I love a good blood feud in pro wrestling. They're so rare. They're usually manufactured, and you can see it coming. You can see it kind of telegraphed, but this felt like a true blood feud to me.
Yeah. No, you couldn't
Seeing
put
them
it
earn
better.
their respect at the end. That, I mean, among all death matches, and I'll get into my experience about Tournament of Survival obviously soon, but the end of the feud, maybe not, but I think they finally earned each other's respect. And whether that's a shoot or a work, you talked about maybe they didn't like each other, but now I think they actually respect each other. And kudos to John Wayne Murdoch for allowing this sort of booking, getting the fans to chant John Wayne pussy and leaning into not being angled to be a tough guy, because he's not insecure enough to believe anyone really believes he's not a tough guy. And I think a lot of guys wouldn't be as thick-skinned with being allowed to be called a pussy in this environment, because that is their livelihood, being a tough guy. And I think it shows how tough he really is. He knows that he proves it in the ring every single night. And if people are chanting it, he knows that it's just all fun and games, because he's one of the toughest guys I've ever seen in the ring, bar none, any company. The guy could take a beating and give a beating. So I love this feud. I love John Wayne Murdoch. Last time I was on here, he was my BMF, because he just goes out there and steals the show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to get kind of the weight of this match, like after we get off of this topic, we're going to dive into the Tournament of Survival, Ace's experience. We're going to talk about all those events, but I just have to set up, like, this Cage of Survival match was so epic. Yeah. There's an intro. I have the intro to it, and I have a couple of the spots, and I also have the show of respect that Ace alluded to that kind of possibly caps this feud off. But here is the intro, the lead up, the kind of structure these guys are going to be working in. I love this clip.
I'm the god of this shit, Nick fucking Cage, and this is the Hall of Famer, Dave Prazak, and we're about to call the Cage of motherfucking Survival.
I don't even know how to describe 3/4 of the things involved in this cage, but you're getting a good look at what exactly Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch have.
I'm in Cage of Survival!
This shows how much.
Just, you're seeing, like, this structure and these weapons and the way they've set it up. It's like, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah. And you got Nick Gage on commentary, the god of this shit, fucking throwing down, and, like, you know, they sell it, the whole concept of the match, you know, it's the cage death, man. It's gonna be crazy. And like it's whoever the other guy on the fucking commentary was too, he was hysterical, because it's just like, it's the tubes, man. It's like, there's I don't know what to explain here, but shit's getting crazy, man. It's fucking it's awesome, man. And like, that's what a good blood feud needs, is a payoff match like this. This is, you know, this is the War Games. It's got that vibe, man, like the old school War Games, not the NXT, you know, coloring book War Games. This is
Horseman War Games, man.
Yeah, fucking man, it's so awesome. Great build up for that shit.
I mean, in a company like GCW, it's so challenging to take it to the next level when you need a feud to get to, you know, WWE's version of Hell in a Cell, to pay it off, the cage match from the 80s. When you do all the things you do on a nightly basis with these deathmatch and the light tubes, you got to do more than that. And they stepped it up every time they get to that level of the feud where it is a blood feud, where it needs to be taken to this serious level. You build a structure like that, and it has this feel of, oh my God, what are they going to do? Because you know there's no limit. That's the scary part. When you're watching these shows, someone legitimately could die. Like, you're watching the show because they're going to go out there and put on a show, and they want to make sure it looks real. They want to make sure everything looks nice and snug, as we like to say, snug and stiff here. Man, they pull no punches, and those weapons in there are no joke, man. Seeing them up close in person, they are everything. It's a shoot, man. All those light tubes. a legit light. I was stepping on some glass. I was pulling glass out of my shoes when I came home.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. So you guys, if you didn't watch Tournament of Survival or Cage of Survival, buy the combo on Fight TV. Go watch it. I'm going to give you a couple little some breadcrumbs, some cheese for the rats to get you to try and buy this event. And this is just taken from the Cage of Survival match between Cologne and Murdoch, but there was this over the top rope spot that I loved. I love the air horn.
Yeah.
Every big spot. It's almost like they know when the big spot's coming. They pull it no matter what without fail on time.
And
Air horn
this
goes
spot
off.
to me was the spot of the match. And this is probably the biggest high spot. This might be one of the biggest spots I've seen in GCW. What a spot. So was that like a cutter off the top rope through pane glass? Like,
Kind of like a swinging neck breaker. If we look
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought a swinging neck breaker would look that dangerous, but holy crap.
Yeah, man. Not
And
holding
then-
shit back. I
Oh,
love
I
it.
know, man. And then Ace, you kind of alluded to this, is this the end of the feud? Is it not? But, these guys, I spoke about it, blood feud, seemed like they hated each other's guts. But at the end, after Cologne reclaims the Ultraviolent Championship, there is a sign of respect in the middle of the ring. He even hands him the title.
Yeah. That's like those.
Yeah.
That's an old school feud. That's the best it fucking gets, man. The fist bump with broken glass in their knuckles and shit. They're just like, yeah, dude, you fucking earned this. And you gotta love it, man. That's why we watch pro wrestling. I think not so much in the deathmatch form, but like wrestling in general. You love these payoffs, these big moments between two tough dudes that beat the piss out of each other. And then you finally get to this, and it's just perfect, man. Look at the craziness in that ring, man.
I know, man. Look at
Can we
that.
give a shout out to Emil too? He sits there in the ring and lists off the credentials. No notepad, nothing off the top of his head. Years, dates, and I even fact checked it in my phone to check out because they were talking about it for the main event of the Tournament of Survival. They talked about the deathmatch tournaments that Drew Parker won. Same thing with Matt Tremont. He was 100% correct, and he went through the credentials from the top of the dome. And that guy is a true professional. Don't let anybody else fool you. He is one of the best ring announcers
He is.
in the world right now. He's killing it.
He is.
Absolutely, man.
And if you follow, obviously we follow him. He features on our top fucking tweet segment every week. But like, follow him on Twitter because at the end of every week, Emil will have a list of matches he enjoyed, and it is a mile long from every company under the sun. The dude consumes more pro wrestling than about anyone I know.
Yeah. It's professional, man. And he's got the drip to back it up and the beef
Yeah.
jerky show to fucking prove it.
Yeah.
Nick Storm said in the chat, Emil gets his flowers and needs more. He needs the garden, man. I think as far as ring announcers go, he's the standard, in my opinion. And if you're not watching him do his thing, he brings a flair to that position that isn't just the guy announcing the matches. He's a character on the show, and he is in the true spirit of what GCW is. It would not be GCW without him. He is passion. He is pure heart and soul, and he represents a lot of what GCW is. And he's just as much as part of the roster in these matches as the guys are. And I hope people know that he's great.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So last little bit, we're going to get into the Tournament of Survival. We're going to get into Ace's firsthand account of being there. There's a couple videos I want to prime us for the Tournament of Survival talk. We'll start with a funny one. Janela posted a social media video day of the show saying he's arrived. And it was kind of him playing on his famous Zandig spot. he says he's at the venue, but he thinks he's at the wrong one.
GCW TOS 7, baby. I'm here a day early. I think I'm at the wrong venue.
Everyone has seen that crazy truck spot, man, where he nearly died. And
wasn't the anniversary of it as well? Like, like recently, a couple days ago.
So I have 2 promos. I wish everyone involved in Tournament of Survival would have had these promos, but 2 guys that were involved in the Tournament of Survival posted promos. The first one, we're going to go Ratty Daddy, leading into his little run in the tournament. He had some words to say.
See, people laughed at the idea when I said violence was a home. But for guys like me, this is the shit I live for, man. I live for that edge. I live for that danger. I live for the idea that something might go wrong. And that's what separates me from a lot of different people. You see, I'm the king of wreck, shit, mountain for a reason. Anything that I do, demolition derbies, professional wrestling, deathmatch wrestling, I do it to be one of the goddamn best. I ain't no goddamn clout chaser either. So you know, when Ratty Daddy steps in that ring, whether it might be in TOS in a couple weeks, Alex Colon in a month, whether it's just a regular professional wrestling match, one thing remains the same: I'm a bad motherfucker.
Getting right to it.
Promos, man. Absolutely.
Ratty Daddy, baby.
Ratty Daddy, he's came alive, man.
Yeah, I had no fucking clue who he was until we seen him cut himself with the fucking tubes, and I was like, "What the fuck, man?" And now he's like a staple for a good GCW deathmatch, man. Like, and good. Dude, I mean, enjoyable. Fucking kid could talk. He's fucking. He fits right in, man. And I love seeing him get wild.
Mike, what's the promo that blew us away? It was that backstage right after his match against Oren Veit, his first death match from what I think it was his first death match, baptism in blood. And they follow him back through the curtain. Everyone's giving him attaboys. That was such, like, I have goosebumps right now on my forearms from that, thinking of that promo. And we got another one. This one kind of gave me goosebumps too. We had one of the godfathers of deathmatch wrestling, Matt Tremont, who was in Tournament of Survival. He had a message for all the guys.
Slade, Yamashita, Rodrick, Parker, Hoodfoot, Mercer. Are you ready to die? Because I've bared myself and died on this fucking cross 8 times before. Tournament of Survival is mine.
Damn, dude. Love
that,
it.
That forehead, man. I'm just locked in on it. Like, goddamn, he's gay. He all for the love of the game.
That's not healing past where it is right now. That's a permanent fixture on his forehead. And for the love of deathmatch, man, he's ready to gig when he wakes up in the morning. You just got to poke it a little bit.
But yeah, Tournament of Survival, just a little brief. I love this graphic just to kind of set the stage for people of the importance of this. This is our 6 champions leading into this past weekend. The inaugural champion was the late, great Danny Havoc, RIP. We had Nick Gage, the god of this shit, as the number 2, Cyclope, number 3, and then Alex Colon goes on an absolute fucking tear, winning 3 in a row. So there's a lot of weight to this, and just a quick personal experience for me. And I want to see if Ace's experience going to this was similar. Me and Sneed about 1.5 years ago went to a tournament, a deathmatch tournament. Never been to a deathmatch show. IWA put it on. It was called Masters of Pain. Jimmy Lloyd was in it. G Raver, Akira, John Wayne Murdoch, all the heavy hitters. Brett Lauderdale was there. If you go scroll back through our images, you'll see a picture of Sneed with Brett Lauderdale. It was from that night. And I remember when we walked in, we've been to shit tons of wrestling shows. We've been to WWE stuff, AEW stuff. We went to the ECW One Night Stand when we were in New York City. Tons of indie shows, but this vibe, they had the barbed wire ropes already set up. There was an energy there. And the people that were there, it felt like, I'm a heavy metal kid. I grew up loving hardcore, heavy metal, punk rock. It had that vibe to me. Like when you go to a heavy metal show or a hardcore show, you feel like you're with your family. Like these guys, we're all here. We're a very tiny niche base of the music community, but we're here to support our shit. We got our band t-shirts on. We're ready to throw down. That's what this it felt like, just kind of a cult following. Like we're a part of something that, hey, the masses don't know about this, but we don't give a fuck because we love this shit. There was an energy that you could cut with a knife. It just felt different to me.
Yeah, it felt as if there was like a password that protected in like a dark alleyway. You knock on the door 4 times, you slide it open, ask for the password, and you say "Separate Ways" by Journey, and then they close it. They open the door, and you go right in. But when you first walk in, man, like you said, it feels like a party. You walk in, the music's blaring, and here I am in front of the ring. This is right as they're making the announcement. They gave no shits. There was like no security. They're not like, "Oh, please sit down. We're about to start the show." You could have went right next to the ring while the match was going on. They did not care. It was an absolute blast. As you first walked in, it's a different energy. And I think what people need to do for GCW, and if you're on the fence about whether you enjoy this or not, go and experience it. Go and experience it, because you have to go see it in person, because there's a different level of intimacy and how close and how like you gain a respect that you didn't have. And I know you can see it on TV, see the light tubes cracking, and it feels like you can feel it there, but when you're there and you see it and hear it and how close they are to you, it's absolutely incredible. And you mentioned too, it feels like it's something that nobody knows about. It's an exclusive club that you're a part of and nobody else knows about. All these guys are so accessible. Once the death matches are done, they're in the crowd watching the match. Like they're just there and they're accessible, where there's no one swarming them to be like, "Hey, can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph?" None of that. They're at their merch tables doing their thing. They're one of the fans. Like they are, no matter who they are, even if they're there for just the day, it feels like, I can't even imagine X-Pac at Showboat, but he's been there. So I can't even imagine what that must be like for someone who's worked MSG, worked WrestleMania, been in big arenas, working even in Japan. Comparing it to this, there's nothing like it. It felt like a punk rock show where people are drinking beers, they're eating food, and there's matches going on where there's glass everywhere.
Dude, at Masters of Pain, man, I'm interested to see what you say, because at Masters of Pain, when they were breaking out the pane glass, when they would, and the tubes, that glass was fucking flying into the crowd.
Oh yeah.
There was no like, oh, let's give some space so no one gets hit. Like Sneed got out of the way because there was so much debris flying into the crowd. And talking about they're so accessible after the fact, we go outside after, in between matches, while they're cleaning the ring to set up for the next one. John Wayne Murdoch's over there just smoking a J, covered in blood, waiting for his next match. Like,
oh yeah,
it was that environment.
So following the main event, we parked, but the Showboat's a huge arena. If you haven't been there before, you have to walk around the building. There's a parking garage, and we happened to walk the wrong way down the alleyway. In the back loading dock is where all the wrestlers were hanging out. Didn't even know, wasn't trying to be whatever stalked. They don't even care anyway. It was Janela and Tremont right outside hanging out, and Tremont's covered. And I'm like, "Oh, great show." And they were just like, "Yeah, no problem. Like, awesome. Thank you for coming, man." And he's covered in blood. Just another day of work for Matt Tremont, who is getting in his car, taking a shower, wherever it's at the arena. Maybe Showboat has a shower. I'm not sure, but he's getting cleaned up, going to bed, waking up the next day, sore as hell. And man, you have so much respect for what they put their bodies through and how much they truly love it. You can see the passion that they have, that they really, It's not just about the entertainment value. It's about proving something to themselves. I feel as if you don't really appreciate. There's something that gets lost in translation from TV to watching it in real life. And I think that was what was missing. And I think it took me to the next level as a GCW fan. And a lot of what for this GCW we talked about is an eclectic mix of different styles. This was an overabundance of deathmatch because it's a one-night tournament.
Right.
And I just want to say, one-night tournaments fucking rule. Compared to the Owen Hart tournament, this is what Owen Hart should have been. They should have had 8 guys go one night on Dynamite and do this. You have a one-night tournament. They build towards it. You got guys limping out to the ring, feeling like the imagery that just gets created, the drama that gets created when you see Matt Tremont drag his ass out of the back again, covered in dry blood and just a different shirt. The drama writes itself.
Yeah.
And you kind of pick, you just kind of pick who you're rooting for from the beginning. Like there's their favorites and people love Matt Tremont, but they love everybody in this tournament.
Yeah.
And someone like Toru, who I've never seen wrestle. This is his first time in America. And I gave him a follow. I think he only has like 600 followers on Instagram. Make sure you guys check him out. Toru Segura. He stole the show. He was every bit of, he earned the respect of everyone in the arena, but also in the ring. And I can't wait to see him back in GCW. And just to show how accessible GCW wrestlers are and how close you are to it. He was covered in blood after I think he had just lost to Matt Tremont. So he had beat Shane Mercer earlier in the night, came out for his second match. He was exhausted, lost to Tremont in about 10 minutes. He got his ass beat. Tremont shook his hand, earned his respect, and everyone collapses by the entranceway because that's like the general admission. They're just collapsed right over there. And he trips over a wire or something, and he's covered in blood, lands in this girl's lap, and she's covered in Toru's blood. And she was like, fuck yeah. Like she was so like anybody else, like, oh my God, I'm covered in this guy's blood. She was all about it. Like she was so pumped. And that just gives you a scope of what this crowd is like. They are so into the product. And that's when you want to talk about authenticity. You can't take it away from those people, because once you rip those people away and they feel like they're alienated, that's the person you need at the show. You don't need the casuals. You just have the diehards. 250, I don't even know how many people there. 250, 175, it doesn't even matter. The energy in there was unlike any other arena I've been in. The chants, the singing along, they were into every single moment. There was not a dull moment the whole night.
I got to ask, because, GCW faithful, they're super loyal. They're super into it, but you didn't just go to a GCW show, Ace. You went to a GCW show at fucking Ground Zero, the Showboat. So that is the hardest of the hardcore. That is home base. So when you're in there, like when you walk in, kind of set the stage for us. Like what are you feeling? What's the energy? what are you smelling? Like set the stage for someone who's never been.
So when you walk in, it's obviously in a casino, so you have to follow the wrestling shirts. This is just like if you go into like a sporting event, you got to follow the jerseys, follow the wrestling shirts to find the Showboat carousel room. And when we first walked in down the line, we're just following the shirts, and I took a picture next to this restaurant that says Eat with Ace or whatever, so I sent you guys in the chat. Walking towards them, who's walking out of the side door? It's Joey Janela, and it's just like him just walking with no shirt on around. I'm like, what's up, Joey? And he's just like, no care. People are not even stopping to take pictures of him because he's so accessible. No one really cares that he's there. Emails are right outside, smoking a cigarette. No problem. He's right there. What's up, man? And they're all like, oh, you going to the show tonight? It was just like a very casual thing. Go into the bathroom. Like, I'm like, let me hit the bathroom before you go in there, because I figured there'd be a line for the tickets. Some guy, the bathroom's right here, and there's a back door that leads you back into the venue because people were leaving that spot to go to the bathroom. And the guy holds the door open. He's like, oh, you're going this way? I'm like, no, I'm looking for the bathroom. He's like, oh, there's one in here. And no one checked my ticket. No one even cared that I had no wristband. They just were like, oh, no problem. We got to the front line. It was just complete casual nature. Like you were supposed to be there. If you knew about it, you were supposed to be there. As far as sights and sounds, rap music blaring. They played Rick Ross all night and Tupac, just the same song over and over again, but it fit the vibe.
Yeah.
And you walk in, you just see the shirt, you see the merch stuff. GCW has some of the best graphic team on the planet. The posters they make for their pay-per-views or their Fight TV events, and also their merchandise is killer. I bought the GCW shirt. I was wearing it during the Hell in a Cell watch along last night.
Loved it.
The old school purple GCW, ECW involved graphic, whatever. But they had so many cool things. I bought the carousel, the Showboat room pin, the green one, But there's so many cool things that they have there. The Tournament of Survival shirt was cool there. But it was just kind of a party feel. It felt like it was like a house party that there was a ring in the middle of, and there's a whole bunch of people there just hanging out, drinking beer and like smoking pot. Like no one cared, man. That was just hanging out, ready to watch some carnage in the ring. But as far as the other stuff goes, once the glass started breaking, that really never left the air. Spooky dust is a real thing, guys. It was like hanging in the air for the whole night, and they kept carrying shit out. Like they were just like, once the match, they probably would break 50 to 60 light tubes, no joke, each match. And they'd be just a team of 3-4 guys carrying more plunder into the ring, whether it be like light tubes or glass. Drew Parker with the darts. Like they had stuff, the Slade match with the thumbtacks on the fungo bat.
Oh,
like they were just set up in the ring, like ready, like a fun house, and everyone was just like hanging out and waiting for it to be used. It was just like, it was unlike anything else. And you know, you look at like some AEW shows or even like some indie shows, they don't really enforce where you sit, but they kind of have rules like, oh, don't go here, make sure what you're respectful of, like don't go near the ring, we don't want you to get hurt. There was none of that here. Like this was just pure punk rock. You can go up to the ring. Like that picture was taken as Emil was giving the entrance to the whole event, and no one cared.
That's
just
awesome.
Sweeping glass out of the ring. And then also too, people were involved in the match. Like at one point they're fighting in the crowd and like they're jumping on people covered in blood. No one cares. It's just, if you're there, you're down for a good time. You have to be, because it's just like, you're part of the show. You really are.
So before we move into Ain't No Jive 5, you went with your girlfriend, right?
Yes.
So you kind of know what you're getting into. Is she a fan of it, or did she just tag along? And like, if she is kind of an outsider to the world, what was her take on it?
She is a wrestling fan now. I mean, she watches almost all the product with me. She watches AEW mostly. She hates WWE. She was, from the jump, she was hooked by Rina coming out there and beating Hoodfoot. Like that was immediately hooked her. And then she was hooked all night. And I think this was the quote she had: I'm a different wrestling fan today than when I walked in here. And I think that was awesome. A true fact. So I think she has a respect for these guys, where she was glowing when we were talking about it the next day with her mom and talking about it. Just in general, like she just loved what she saw, and it was just a different level of event. And I think it was a lot of violence. And like, as it was going on, it was like, you kind of become desensitized to it, because it's like, you know, you got the Rina match that opened, then you got Tremont, and then you also got Toru taking a beating from Shane Mercer and then winning. Drew Parker and Cole Rodrick went out there and killed it. And then you kind of get a little bit of a reprieve with that Nick Wayne scramble with AJ Gray, and then it's back to the death matches. But she loved it. And I think
awesome.
It's not an everyday type of thing, but I think it really broadened the scope of what wrestling can be. It's not just AEW, it's not just WWE, it's not just Ring of Honor. We've been to House of Glory together, we've been to Creative Pro. What was the other one? And now GCW. All these different events, like it gives a different idea about what wrestling is, because it's not just one cookie cutter thing.
Right.
But it also is in the same spirit of each other. They all just branch off, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I always like hearing what not a hardcore fan thinks of things when they go for the first time. Because my girlfriend took her to AEW All Out. That was her first experience, was All Out, and her mind was fucking blown. So I love hearing those stories. So yeah, that's the news. Let's go ahead and get into our matches.
The Ain't No Jive 5.
So yeah, guys, we'll go. Each of us have 5 matches. We won't go too deep into each match. We'll just kind of give what we really liked from the weekend. We'll give our Ain't No Jive 5, and we'll reserve our number 1 match of the past 2 weekends for our best bout. So I'll kick it off. My number 5 match is Allie Katch, Billy Starks, and Sandra Moon against Second Gear Crew. It was a 16-minute intergender 6-man tag match. Love Allie Katch. Love Billy Starks. I think she's got a bright future. Just a hell of a lot of fun. I thought they showed out. 16 minutes. The ladies killed it. Had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. No, it was a great match. Super, super fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, Billy Starks is fantastic. Allie Katch is fantastic. Second Gear Crew, Obviously, fucking good time. That's great.
What do you got as your number 5, Mike?
Let's go with I'm going to start off with Drew Parker versus Cole Raddick. Ratty Daddy, man. It was just I fucking love Ratty Daddy so much now, and Drew Parker was unbelievably on fire this weekend. It was just so fun to watch. Good shit, man. It really put me into the deathmatch spirit. I was ready to fucking roll afterwards. It's like, yeah, come on, man.
Yeah. Ace.
It was very hard for me not to spam the night I was there. So I'm going to go with from the weekend before in Vegas, Johnny Game Changer versus Joey Janela. I thought this was a great match. Went about 20 minutes. They killed it. And I think there's a lot of heat right now on Johnny because of how he debuted in AEW and people were disappointed in him, but this is the perfect environment for him. And I thought this represented really well. Surprised Janela lost, but it really didn't matter. The match was awesome. And this is the type of wrestling you can get that isn't a death match. You can get out there and have a pretty good match that isn't just glass and barbed wire, then go out there and have, you know, a really good solid match that would be good in any company.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you have this on your 5 because I pulled a clip and I didn't have anywhere to play it because this was one of my favorite spots from all 3 events because Johnny Game Changer came to the ring with Dad and Joey Janela didn't like Dad's dance moves. He was kind of, he did not like his dance moves, man. That popped me so huge when he did that. Just and it was a little stiff forearm there, man.
It looked good. It looked damn good, man.
Okay, my number 4, gotta go Tournament of Survival. There's a few of those on my list.
Yeah.
I'm going Rina against Hoodfoot, dude.
Oh yeah.
That was like, she power bombs this guy. Unreal. Like, look at the strength for her. Hoodfoot is a good, what would you say, 350 at least?
Yeah,
Easily,
I mean, he's a big boy.
That's
wow.
insane. Yeah. Crazy, man.
Love that match. I love, I don't want to catch heat for this, but just being completely upfront, I've never been a big intergender match guy, but no company makes it work and pulls me in more than GCW. They have the best intergender wrestling in pro wrestling.
100% agree. I was going to say the same thing. They're so progressive in the way they do this because they treat them on the same level.
Yep.
It says everything you need to know about Game Changer Wrestling. When she beats Hoodfoot and no one blinks an eye, they're like, oh, she's a badass. Like everyone doesn't say, oh, they're just giving her the match. She did everything and more that everybody else in this tournament did. And she killed it. Like she did. It wouldn't have shocked me if she won the tournament. Like that's how good they booked
make
these
you
women.
Believe. They make you buy in. And other companies, I don't think do a good job at that, but I totally buy in.
It's not a gimmick either. It's just, these are badass women that are willing to take a beating and use the weapons and take the light tubes to the head. And she was chewing on light tubes too. She had the light tubes in her mouth. Like she's, man. Yeah. She was like Mulan if like Mulan's life went a lot differently.
Mike, who'd you have at your number 4?
Well, geez, we're talking about intergender wrestling, man. You cannot pass over this match. We had Sawyer Wreck versus Joey Janela. It was fucking unbelievable. That top rope choke slam to the fucking door. Unbelievably great, man. And yes, look at that shit, man.
And she got the
one
win.
Of those things. Yeah, that's one of those disbeliefs. You know, they're you don't even second guess it. Like like you watch a WWE match, they do like an intergender thing, and you're like, these. There's no boundaries here. There's no lines where the women come in strong and they beat the shit out of the dudes, man. This was one of my favorite matches from the whole entire 3 shows that we watched. It was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, it's like picking Mortal Kombat characters and anyone can beat each other. Like that's what it really is. So my number 4 was the semifinals of the Tournament of Survival. Was Matt Tremont defeating Toru. And I had to fit Toru somewhere in on this list because I think he deserves recognition for what he did. And Tremont, I don't think this was his best match of the night, but I think it really helped Toru get to a level where people respected him. And the first match was good. This match was even better. And the fact that he went toe to toe with a deathmatch legend This is his first time in America. This is the first time in GCW. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of him because his facial expressions, his selling, his in-ring work, it was, I mean, I don't know how people don't know who he is yet. And it's kind of a shame at this point. I think he's going to be a huge star by this time next year. I really think he has a lot to give the wrestling business. He really works in that stiff style. I mean, look at his cage match reviews. There's a lot of people that are very, very high on what he's been doing in Japan. And I think the North American audience is going to be very, very shocked to see. We may see him in other places except GCW. He may go in the other places, maybe NWA. Yeah. Maybe we'll see him in AEW doing some work or something like that. I don't think full time, but the door is open for him. And I think he really opened some eyes this weekend.
Dude, yeah. And I think you kind of hit on something of this tournament. I love that they kind of scatter in the tried and true kind of pillars of that community with the up and comers, because we kind of zeroed in on Hoodfoot months ago, Mike. Like this guy could become a deathmatch icon. You know, he's got that in him, and he takes that loss to Rina, who's also kind of like, where's she coming from? I've never heard of, you know. So I love that they're like, the international flavor in this tournament was really great. My number 3, we're sticking in the tournament and we're sticking with Toru, but I have Toru defeating Shane Mercer. Big fan of Shane Mercer. Go back in our visits to the Tavern archives. We spoke to Shane. I think this guy might be one of the most powerful dudes in pro wrestling as far as just sheer feats of strength. Some of the stuff he does is incredible. Like the way he catches guys and turns it into these power moves is unbelievable, honestly. Like that he possesses the strength he does. But like he essentially beat Toru to a pulp.
Yeah.
And still managed, the kid pulled one out. So I just loved this match. It was kind of a true underdog death match where you thought you knew where it was going and then he pulls it out. I love that match.
It was great.
Yeah. I love the commentary on that spot too, where he's like, he's got class in his ass. He's got class in his ass.
Yeah.
Hotly good. Let's see. My number 3, it's just the collective of all the Cardona and Blake Christian stuff. I thought it was awesome. I mean, we got Blake Christian's the number 1 contender. It all kind of like fell into place. Cardona selling that heel shit, coming out with the wheelchair, the neck brace. You can't fucking get better entertainment out of a side storyline. You know, it was fucking great.
Yeah, it was a great match.
That was a great match.
Yeah.
So my number 3 was Drew Parker and Cole Rodrick, and you had mentioned this as your number. I think it was your 5, Mike.
Yeah.
So I think Drew Parker. Honestly, Cole Radrick, I thought was going to go over here, and it surprised me to see Drew win. But it was a really good match, and some of the spots they pulled off, I earned a lot of respect for Cole here. He's going to be a huge star in GCW. Mark my words, and I know he's already getting over with the crowd. There's a lot of people wearing Ratty Daddy shirts in the crowd. They were selling some merch there.
Oh yeah,
he reminds you of Mikey Whipwreck, like getting
100%.
Yeah, getting the Cactus Jack feud. This feels like Mikey Whipwreck. And I think a lot of what we're seeing from him, he's earning the respect from people. I know people already have the respect for him, but other deathmatch guys are going to earn respect. And he went out there and took a beating. And I posted some spots on my Instagram, the videos of that match. The swanton off the ladder, and also taking it through the glass. I mean, every bit as tough as every one of these guys. And the cool part about this whole tournament, you got women, you got guys of all different body types. Shane Mercer, who's Jack, Cole Radrick, who looks like the kid who like you pissed off in junior high, and he's just like kind of still has his baby fat on him. He's such a badass too. But I think he has like the Mikey Whipwreck innocence level that he looks like, but he's deceptively vile when he has the weapons in his hand. So I thought it was a great match.
Yeah, he's like Mikey Whipwreck meets Spike Dudley.
Yeah,
like, he's got a little bit of both those guys in him. My number 2, I'm sticking with Shane Mercer, but I'm going C.O.S. SGC defeating Iron Beast, which is Shane Mercer's tag team. Dude, this tag team should be, Iron Beast should become a staple in this company and on all of the independents. The
look at the strength. Wait a second. What the fuck? Look at
second.
Holding them in. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unreal. But
Great
I
shit.
love those guys. I love Second Gear Crew, but Shane Mercer, just the level of high spot power and combining it with, Matt Justice and Mance Warner. Come on.
Yeah, unbelievable. Number 2 for me, going way back to what's it called? Downward Spiral. Mike Bailey versus Chris Bay. Fucking just a hard-hitting, awesome, your typical Mike Bailey match at this point. Guy's fucking killing it. And it was just so good, man.
Great match, too. I had that as one of my honorable mentions. I have another Vegas Downward Spiral match myself, the main event from that night, which was Cole Rodrick and Rina defeating Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch. And this match went 15 minutes of just nonstop action. It was a really good way to introduce Rina to, for me, get her introduced to the deathmatch style for the tournament. Same thing with Cole. Them getting the win was shocking. That kind of put the match a little bit higher up on here because I thought it was good booking because Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch, they're building towards what they were going to get to in a couple weeks at that point. But this match was really good. And again, Rina is just every bit as tough as every guy in this roster. And she's impressive too. The things that she's able to do in the ring, I think she'd still be impressive even without the deathmatch gimmick going into it. AEW could use a woman like her. Like I don't think she would have to just do the deathmatch stuff. She's very quality in the ring. All of her stuff looks believable. Her punches, her moves, they all look very, very good. So it wouldn't shock me to see her go to greener pastures eventually financially. But selfishly, I'd love her to stay in a place like GCW because it's so much fun to watch her go and kick some guy's ass.
Yeah.
No, 100%, man.
So my number 1, before we get into our best bout, I'm going Drew Parker, Matt Tremont. I thought you're seeing a legend with arguably the GOAT of deathmatch wrestling right now. I mean, he won the tournament. We got to crown him. Like, I feel like we've got John Wayne Murdoch, Alex Colon, and now Drew Parker stepping up into that third spot. The spot off of the scaffolding was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, unreal.
Wild, man.
Also, him taking the bump off the top. He was struggling to climb the scaffold. And the fact that he just got tossed off there like Mick Foley off the cell, just took a full head dive off.
Yeah,
man. Like what he gives to, like I said, he's out there smoking a cigarette after the match. Like you earned your pay that day, my man. 3 matches, just pure carnage.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Drew Parker, man, and he showed grit because he was rushed to the hospital over something like a pretty serious situation, and then he still managed to show up. He's an international guy, so he's like, hey, I'm in the States, I'm here for a tournament, I'm not going to let that stop me. But Mike, what's your number 1?
You nailed it right on the head, man. Drew Parker versus Matt Tremont, man. It was fucking it was the accumulation of the Tournament of Survival, so you got fucking just the best. I feel like that was the best match of the night for good reasons.
Yeah.
They came to the ring bloody as a pulp, ready to fucking roll. And you feel it, man. You're just fucking, you're jacked up. You're ready to roll.
That image of Matt Tremont as Separate Ways is playing in the background as he's all bloodied up, walking through the crowd and he's carrying the weapons over his shoulder.
Awesome. Yeah.
Just absolutely. I got chills thinking about that, man.
Epic.
Epic.
It's like the guy going in to kill the serial killer at the end of the movie. He's like ready to roll. He's like, let's fucking do this. And you're like,
kicking into a different gear at that point. My number 1 is the ultra-violent title, Cage of Survival, as we showed the highlights before. Alex Colon defeating John Wayne Murdoch. This match was every bit as advertised. They went 18 minutes strong, just going out there. And this was their best match yet, I think. And I think that's saying a lot because they go out there and kill it every time they're in the ring. Like I mentioned, they have really good chemistry. You could tell, even though they're, maybe it's a shoot, maybe it's a work of when they don't like each other, there is a level of trust to do the things that they're doing in this ring. And man, this match was awesome. To see Colon win the title was a little bit surprising to me. I wasn't expecting a title change here, which is always a lot of fun. And I mean, this did justice to the name Ultraviolent. This was a lot of fun and a unique structure. I mean, it's hard in wrestling. How many years of wrestling? Over 100 years of wrestling, different match types, different venues. Mike and I talk about the Doomsday Cage, which sucked, but like it's hard to come up with new matches that mean something.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Like this was in the spirit of GCW, but felt bigger than the regular death matches. The stipulation took it to the next level, and then the two of them delivered in the ring and used every bit of that cage to destroy each other. Epic match.
The thing I loved about it, it was ominous.
Yeah.
Like, you felt like, oh fuck, what's going to happen? You know, like I love that feeling. I just want to shout out a couple. There was a ton of matches between Cage of Survival, Tournament of Survival, and Downward Spiral. I wanted to shout out a couple matches that I think deserves a tip of the cap that we didn't mention. Cage of Survival scramble match for the Extreme title. AJ Gray defeating Akira, Cole Radrick, Jimmy Lloyd, Jordan Oliver, Mike Bailey, and Nick Wayne. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Even AJ Gray had a big weekend because he put it on in two. He put on two Extreme title defenses. I also liked the Tremont Slade match was brutal and fun. Mike Bailey, Blake Christian, like you mentioned, Mike, Jordan Oliver, Nick Wayne defeating ASF and Gringo Loco. A lot of fun.
Yeah. I forgot all about that match. It was so good.
Effie and Kevin Blackwood, big Kevin Blackwood fans, like that match. But yeah, I was going to go into tweets, but since we're in the matches, man, I say we go ahead and award our best bout. My best bout, Alex Colon defeating John Wayne Murdoch, Cage of Survival. It just felt like a culmination of this feud we've been tracking for months now. The ominous nature of it that I mentioned before, I loved this match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, same reason why it's mine. It was just it was the shits in the best way possible, man. Like it was everything you could expect for something called Cage of Survival.
Right.
You know, and awesome, fucking beautiful, awesome spots, well put together match. And the payoff was there. Like you don't usually get the trifecta, you know, It's usually, you get two and something falls short, but these guys delivered hard, man.
Yeah. And listen, man, it was interchangeable. I think what took it over the top for me, my number one was the final with Drew Parker and Matt Tremont, because I was there, because it was such a big moment.
Yeah.
It felt like it transcended the rest of the card. And it's funny as you watch the card progress. And like we talked about with one night tournaments, they rule, by the way. And I'll say that all day. Hashtag one night tournaments are rule. To replace the ropes with the barbed wire and then have them get in the ring. And they're both so tired, probably not even selling at this point because they're actually exhausted.
Yeah.
It was such a great match for both guys going out there. And at this point, having 3 death matches in a week is hard. Imagine having 3 death matches in a night. Drew Parker went out there and showed out. And I didn't know the story about him not doing well prior to the event. So that adds another dimension of his toughness as well. So this was awesome. I was expecting Tremont to win here, but Parker earned my respect. That he was awesome. The dart spot was crazy. He took a dart in his mouth where it was just hanging out in his face for majority of the match. The glass spots, the scaffolding, as you mentioned before, you knew it was getting involved. I didn't think Tremont was the one taking the fall off the top, but there he was, falling all the way to the ring, and the trust that they have on that canvas for the ring to hold. And that's a big boy falling from a long way. Man, this was this was every bit fitting of a final match. And it's hard because all night, this is the culmination of how many death matches can you do? How unique can the spots be? And I feel like each match built on each other, and there was something different in every match. And we always talk about where's the story, what's building to it. This is a perfect example of how to build a story in one night. There didn't need to be a built-in feud with Drew Parker and Matt Tremont.
Right.
They both endured trial and tribulation through combat the whole night, and they just earned each other's respect. And you could just see at some point Tremont got on his knees and was just bowing to him, and they hugged each other. And even if you go back to some of the Toru matches, Toru with Matt Tremont, the respect that was gained between them, that's the shoot, man. You know that they're respecting each other to a point where there's just gushing blood, literally giving blood, sweat, and tears in that ring. just fantastic, man. And I can't say enough about it. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
any match that ends with this big trophy after you've seen it, it just felt special. So I totally get that. I think we had it at our number 1 on the Jive 5, and then you have it at your best bout. I think those two matches felt very special over those two events.
Before we move on from Drew Parker, do you guys have his theme song that you know with I have the claps in my head, like the 3 claps? Do we have that song that someone can send me? If you guys know in the comments, put Drew Parker's theme in here. I need to know it because I can't find it on Spotify. They have a different theme he's using on the in the other indies. So I need to know what he used in GCW.
Send it, put it in the comments so we know.
Yeah, hook it up, man.
So yeah, now we'll go ahead and get into. Let's go BMF.
BMF of the weekend.
Okay, BMF of the weekend. You could go Alex Colon reclaiming Ultraviolent, but I'm with Ace in the weight of the weekend felt like the tournament weekend. To me, you can't go any other way but the man who won the one night tournament. I gotta go Drew Parker, BMF of the weekend.
Hell yeah, man. I'm right there with you. It was the Tournament of Survival, man. These guys fucking put on a hell of a show. As we said, all in one night. We got a hell of a tournament, and Drew Parker was a fucking wild man.
Yeah.
He earned that shit, man. He fucking ran down and just held his own, and it looked awesome. Great storytelling, great fucking deathmatch wrestling, man.
Yeah, I have Matt Tremont and Drew Parker as a tandem. I think they both endured so much in the night, and I think Tremont deserves to be recognized. And also, he had a part of putting Drew over here. I would like to think someone with the weight of Tremont in that locker room probably holds a little bit. If he wanted to go over, maybe he would have. But it makes Drew Parker. I know he's won other deathmatch tournaments in different companies and different countries and all that. But winning the one in GCW can be career altering in a good way. So this was a big moment for Drew Parker. I'm sure we're going to see more of him in different companies. And this is a good launch point for him where Matt Tremont is established as a legend. He could have been in the ring with those other guys in that segment with the guys that are going the Hall of Fame later in the night. He's already there. Like Drew Parker is not yet. So this was a really good moment and a very selfless thing for Tremont to do here. And I have respect for both these guys.
Yeah. And just got to say it about Drew Parker. Like the guy doesn't look like who you would think would be in a deathmatch tournament. I get vibes from him just based off of like his body type, what he looks like. Tyler Black, Seth Rollins on the indies. He gives me those vibes. Like he has if he would go into a major promotion, I feel like he has that look of a top guy, and he's a world-renowned deathmatch guy. So I think he has a very marketable look to him. Like he could become a big star even outside of the deathmatch world.
Yeah. And there's a comment in the chat talking about Parker's injury from the 26 is what you were referencing about being taken to the hospital for 22 stitches in his leg. So that's from the deathmatch he was wrestling. And what company is that? Are you guys familiar with that company?
No.
So, I mean, tough SOB right there that he's working only a week later that he's in this match.
Crazy.
Three death matches with Glass. And so he did have the knee wrapped up where they were stabbing him there as a work, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it actually
and I have some words from Drew in our next segment. He does kind of allude to the weekend that he had, but let's go ahead and get into our final segment.
GCW top fucking tweets.
All right, top fucking tweets, guys.
Yeah,
we're gonna kick it off with one of our tried and true guys, but he's bickering back and forth. So we got Emil bickering with Tony Deppen.
Ooh, all right. So let's get this going. I gotta go maximum screen for this shit. He goes, I just think if you're ordering $120 worth of food to be delivered to your house, you should tip me more than $5. Tony Deppen responds, I'd tip you $2.50. The email says, enjoy your spit burger, loser. Tony Deppen responds with, I'll slash your tires. Enjoy buying new tires. Email comes back with, stop playing pretend on the internet, Tony. And Tony Deppen says, hey, I could slash your tires for real if you'd like.
That's our future GCW champion. Be kind to him. You guys got to get along.
GCW's consummate dickhead. I love when KG calls him that. Next up, we got the man himself, Brett Lauderdale.
Just saw Nick Gage walking a poodle on the boardwalk, and that's a shoe.
Back
the
to
king of that
emo.
shit, man.
Yeah. Back to emo.
This is
Nobody.
for all my poodles. Sorry.
Yeah, it's for all my poodles. Nobody can touch me on the big match intros, and he's a fucking 1000% right, man. Give the guy a garden.
Dude,
Give the guy his
Ace,
garden, man.
you brought it up earlier, how he's how he rattles off all of this knowledge. I got to agree with Emo on big match intros. He has that weight behind it to me.
He's got that
a
Michael
suit on him,
Buffer
he
drip.
could be in any company. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he
like
could.
it's just the presentation because he's rocking jeans and like a big screen graphic from the 90s wrestling shirt. But you put a suit on him, he can go toe to toe with any ring announcer in any era. He really can.
Yep.
Yeah, but keep the fucking badass.
No, I agree.
Keep all over
sweats.
the Macho Man Slim Jim shirt. I want.
Yeah.
His Terry Funk Cactus Jack shirt on the TOS
Fucking
was
awesome, man.
amazing.
Yeah.
And him and I were like in spirit animal. I was wearing my Terry Funk shirt as well.
Yeah.
All right, next tweet we got from the bad boy Joey Janela.
If you don't know what this dude went through, holy shit, what a ride. Deserves it 100%. Legit, the emoji goat at Drew Parker 341.
Getting props from the bad boy.
Hell yeah.
Next tweet is from an account called PW Ponderings.
Cardona'S says he has to get surgery on Tuesday, and the doctors say he'll be out 3 to 5 months. Crowd chants, don't come back, and thank you, Blake. Hashtag GCW COS.
Oh, I love it.
man.
The crowd shits on him even when he's really hurt. It's so good. That's real heat, guys.
Hell yeah, man.
Next tweet. We haven't heard from this guy in a while. Mr. Marco Stunt.
Ooh. Responding to Game Changer Wrestling, which says GCW returns to New York City on Saturday, June 18th. Marco Stunt, Mr. Fun Size. Yo, I don't have a match yet. Pondering emoji. I sat in catering for months, not being able to wrestle. I'm not waiting anymore. Give me my match and give me one of your best. I'm not going to do this whole tiptoe around bullshit anymore. I'm great at this shit, and people are going to realize. Big words from a little man.
I want to
see what he's doing, man.
Him back. I want to see him back in GCW doing his thing, man. Like, I hope he brings, some fire. He's fun. Marco's fun.
I'd like to see him go against Yo-Ya, man. Like, they're like the same height.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice little,
right.
All right. Here's the tweet I alluded to from the Tournament of Survival winner himself, Mr. Drew Parker.
9 nights ago, I was rushed off in the hospital and was walking on crutches. Tonight, I wrestled 3 death matches and captured the Tournament of Survival number 7 trophy. I have too many people to thank, so for now, cheers.
Star in the making, man.
Yeah, man.
If he's not already a star,
The pictures say it all. He looks good with that trophy, man.
All right. A tweet from the god of this shit, Nick Gage.
I don't know how much I got left. I'm just being honest, but I know I'm not done yet, and I'll fight till I'm dead. MDK. All fucking day, baby.
kind of alluding at a possible retirement, maybe. I think he'll always be kind of that ambassador for GCW. He's always going to be attached to this company, but kind of interesting to see him start to see the end of the road,
Yeah, you know, it's been cool that he's kind of taken a step back. I love him on commentary. Love when he gets in, does the ring announcing. You know, that's always a fucking blast. And he's like he is the spokesperson for GCW, man. He is he's the fucking god of that shit. And I don't think he'll ever step away for good. I think he's always gonna be up in front as fucking MDK all day, man.
The two most important people in GCW history to me is Nick Gage and Joey Janela.
Yeah.
I mean, all you need to know is those guys that were going to the Hall of Fame, 3 of the 4 in the ring were wearing Nick Gage merch. Like they were wearing, they recognize that he is truly a living legend in this genre of wrestling. And people want to talk about his appearance on AEW with the pizza cutter and say that that doesn't have any place on Dynamite and all that. And I think they're just wrong. Like, I think people are just wrong that there's a spot in wrestling for deathmatch wrestling. Nick Gage has carved his niche out, literally carved. And I think he is just as valuable to one company and to GCW as anybody to their company in the history of wrestling. If you really think about it, he helped grow GCW to the next level, and maybe they're going to evolve past this level, but they would not be where they are, like you said, without Janela and without Gage.
Yeah, and the last tweet is from Emil, because he always gets multiple tweets in this segment. Just a fun one.
I heard it's deathmatch season starting this weekend. Looking eye emojis, and his back seat is filled with, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 fucking light tubes. Love this guy.
I feel like everybody who's involved in GCW just goes to their local Lowe's or Home Depot and grabs as many tubes as they can get and just shows up.
Somewhere in Atlantic City, there's an office that is just without lighting right now because they haven't been able to replace the bulbs that went out. There's a shortage here in Atlantic City. We're not sure why. Oh yeah, because they used 5,000 of them this weekend.
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, guys. Last thing, just want to look ahead, give you guys kind of a buffer, a kind of a palate, wet your palate for what's to come. June 18th, we got You Wouldn't Understand in New York City. That's going to be the Mox Tony Deppen match. You're going to want to check that out. June 19th, it's a double shot weekend. June 19th, they'll be in Providence, Rhode Island for I Never Liked You. That's the event that's going to have Will Ospreay's debut in GCW. Yes. That's a lot of fun. Then we return for June 30th, DOA in Detroit. Are they at Harpo's again?
Yes, I believe they are.
Yeah, okay, they are.
That'll be fun. July 1st, Gateway to the Death, St. Louis. I don't have the card in front of me, but it has a extremely strong card for Gateway to the Death. So go check that out. Then we get Rock and Roll Forever in Evansville, Indiana. It's going to be a fun one. Rock and Roll Express are going to be on that card, doing their farewell to the Evansville Coliseum. And then July 29th, the People versus GCW in Nashville. That is SummerSlam weekend. Ooh. I think Mox is signed up for that too. They haven't announced an opponent. I'm thinking he gets Blake Christian.
Yeah.
The People versus GCW. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. He's going to beat Deppen, and then they're going to shoot an angle with Blake Christian at You Wouldn't Understand. We'll see. That's just me fantasy booking. But you guys have anything else to say before we get out of here?
Just always, for the St. Louis match on July 1st, the 3 matches that are announced right now: Delirious and Effie, Alex Colon and Cole Radrick, and Davey Richards versus Joey Janela, and they're advertising Warhorse. Blake Christian, Alley Catch, Alex Colon, Effie. As I mentioned, Nick Gage is being said that maybe he's wrestling. So who knows? And maybe who knows? Maybe it's I
love that title. That's one of my favorite Gateway to the Death. What a great
dude! Their graphics, like I'm saying, are the best in wrestling right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Old Me one is my favorite one that I think I've seen, but they are. I feel like they top each other every single time they go out there.
Yeah,
I'm wondering 100%. How they come up with the names. Who's coming up with the names of these events?
Whoever is the genius, but they should get their flowers.
Yeah,
good fucking marketing team. That's what that.
I'm considering going to the New York City one. It's a short train ride away, so who knows? Stay tuned, guys.
Oh, keep us in the loop, man. Keep us in the loop.
Yeah.
So, guys, again, just remember we're going to be bi-weekly now. So every 2 weeks we'll be back here 2 weeks, which, funny enough, it'll be a Monday after a double shot weekend. There'll be a lot to talk about. A Mox title match. There'll be a lot of stuff on the table. So we'll be back then. If you want to support the show, please just go to theturnbuckletavern.com. We have a ton of stuff there. You see all the logos. We're everywhere. Sub, follow, like, comment, subscribe. Leave us a review. It goes a long way. We appreciate it. Buy some merch. We got some merch too. Cool merch. But yeah, now it's time to kind of vanish back into the spooky dust. Until next time, guys, long live the Turnbuckle Tavern and long live GCW.
Look at fun.
Fucking dick.